Hello, and welcome to a very quick overview of IdeaBox in React, specifically class-based React. So this is just a version of IdeaBox like the one that you built, but, in React. So let's talk about it. So first off, I'm going to talk through just a little high-level overview of the component structure. Woo! So this is our app. Our app will have a form at the top, this lovely dashed line represents our card container, and then the boxes inside are each a card. There we go. So this is our app. This is our form. And if we hear my cat, we're just going to ignore him because whenever I start recording, he starts crying. So this is our container. I'm just gonna abbreviate it CO. And then this is a card, which I'm gonna abbreviate with CA. That's a C, I promise. So only two of these will need our state. So in class-based React, things are either stateful or stateless. So a state is just, it's like a constructor, really. You just hold on to a little piece of information that you might need to render later or change later. So the only two of these that need state are app and form. App is going to hang on to our idea, and form is going to hang on to an array of ideas, plural, like that. So those are the only two that need to have any kind of state, so that will make the other two stateless components. And I also want to talk for just a second about the hierarchy of these components. So the parent of all of them is going to be app, and then it has two direct children, which are going to be form and the card container, which has one child of card. So this is everybody's parent. It's got two direct children, and then it's got one child below that. So it's kind of like a grandchild component. Yep. So there's a saying in React called data down, actions up, and I think while we have this little hierarchy drawn out, it's a good time to talk about that. So data down, you can kind of think of it like, what do the child components need to have access to in order for the app to function? So they'll need access to our array of ideas, as well as a couple of different functions they'll need to know about, so that they can signal for an action later. Like card will have an X on it to delete, and it'll signal, hey, card container and app, I need you to delete this. So that's an action being passed up. He's so funny. Okay, so that's just a really high level overview. Let's look at the actual components here. So the only two that I say component, but the only two that actually extend the component class from React are going to be our app and our form. So the import looks like this. Import React component from React. So that's going to be here and on our form. We just have a little constructor here. The line super means that we have access to anything that would be in the constructor of our parent class, which in this case is component. And then we have our little bit of state that we want to hold on to. So in this case, it is an array of ideas. Now, app is going to have two different methods here, add idea and remove idea, which I feel like might be a little confusing because you think, well, you know, we're adding an idea in the form and then we're removing the ideas in the cards. Like, shouldn't they be the ones in charge of that? But actually, no. It's the parent that needs to be in charge of these because it is changing the bit of state that it is holding on to. So because add idea and removing idea both modify app's piece of state, then those need to live on app. And then we just pass down the information about those through our components, through what are called props. So for instance, to our idea form, like I said, it's going to need access to add idea. So the way that we're writing this prop is that we're calling it add idea, and then we're assigning it to this dot add idea. The same with card container, we're saying remove idea is assigned to this dot remove idea. So we're also passing down here just ideas. So that's just taking ideas from state. So our add idea is just taking and using this handy little spread operator to spread in the idea that we're getting from our form and adding a property of ID that we're assigning to date.now. Then we're taking ideas from state and spreading those in and then adding our new idea. So that becomes ideas, and then we reset state with ideas. So the reason we can write it like this is because we already said ideas here. So we're saying, hey, go into state and look for something called ideas, but it already knows that this is also ideas. But the way we could also say it is if we had said new ideas. And then what we would do is, hey, go to state, look for ideas, and assign it to new ideas. So it's just a little fancy bit of syntax sugar. And then remove idea. You've seen this word before, filter. It's just a filter. So we're filtering based on the ID that is passed up to us when a card is clicked. So like in here, if I have card to delete and, please delete. And we'll have another one. Okay, so when I click on this X, it is just saying, hey, an action needs to happen now, and I am going to give you the ID required to perform that action. So I hit X, and it passes up through the line to get back to app and to change ideas so that that card is no longer in state. So let's take a look at form real quick. So one of the things that was hard for me to get used to about React is how we're kind of smushing the JavaScript and HTML together with JSX, and that takes a little bit of getting used to. So in the other one, we just said div because we can only return one thing at a time. So every every component, capital C component is what I'm talking about right now, needs a render, and every render needs a return, and every return can only return one thing. So that's why we're wrapping everything in this div right now. Over here on form, we can be a little bit more semantic and actually just call it a form because that's the only thing we're returning from this. And this is just like in vanilla where you would say on click or on submit, except that it looks a tiny bit different, and we're assigning it to this handle submit button, where this little fancy bit of code right here is destructuring is what it's called. So we're basically, this is like saying, const name equals event.target.name. But we can do both name and value at the same time, and it's just syntactic sugar. So if we look at what is name, name we've assigned to title and body. And so when we say name here, either we're passing in that key of title or body, and that's what's going to get set into state. And then we're handling our input change when somebody changes anything. And then we have a button that is submitting. So this is all this is doing. And like I said, the only thing this needs access to is our add ideas. So this is this line right here is this.props.add ideas. So that's like when we say this.props, this is actually the only thing we're passing in is this add idea. And then we're going to pass in whatever's in state as our new idea and pass that up to our parent component, which is app. So those are the two most complex components. I'm just gonna quickly show you card container and card. So these ones are just they don't have any state. So they're functionless basically. They just do one thing. So for card container, all that's doing is containing our cards. So I feel this syntax is maybe a little bit scary, but you've seen the word map before. You know that all we're doing is just mapping over each idea in the ideas array to make a new card. And this syntax right here, anytime you see card or form and it's got the angle brackets around it, that's just us instantiating a new card, instantiating a new container, instantiating a new form. And that's when we're passing our props. So the props that we're passing to card, each time we map over ideas with an idea, we're spreading in whatever's in the idea. Then we are passing it, hey, you're gonna need access to this remove idea function. And then we also are passing it its key because React doesn't like multiples without keys. It will throw an error and be like, hey, you're having a lot of multiples here. There's no keys. I don't like it. So it will throw an error if you do that. It might still work, but your console will have an error in it for sure. And then if we look at card itself, again, all it's doing is just spitting out one card, and we're just interpolating the title and the body, and we're just giving it this on click of remove idea so that it can signal that to be done and passing in the ID when we hit X. So I think that React is easier once you get used to it, but it's still a learning curve and you still have to, learn it for it to be easier. But if you look at how small our functions are and everything, it looks a lot simpler and cleaner and smaller because this is doing just a lot of DOM manipulation for us so that we don't have to go in every time and say document.query selector and all that stuff. So I think once you get used to this, you're not going to want to look back at vanilla JavaScript because that happens to most people, but it is still a learning curve. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Good luck. You can do this. Have a good night.